The redistricting drama moves to Act 3. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Anna Staver, State House reporter for the Columbus Dispatch, Derek Clay, Democratic strategist, and Gene Krebs, former state legislator. A few days late and a few days before they were ordered to appear at an Ohio Supreme Court contempt hearing, members of the Ohio Redistricting Commission on Thursday approved a third version of the state legislative maps. The new plan creates 54 Republican seats and 45 Democratic seats in the Ohio House and 18 Republican to 15 Democratic seats in the Ohio Senate. That is close to the voting preferences of Ohioans. But Democratic members say the maps create more than a dozen toss-up districts for Democrats compared to 0 toss-up districts for Republicans. Both Democrats on the commission and one Republican, Auditor Keith Faber, voted against the maps. Now we wait for the Ohio Supreme Court to say whether these maps meet its view of the Constitution. Anna Staver, third time's a charm, perhaps? What is the thinking at the State House? Is this closer to what the Supreme Court was looking for?
Well, I think that really depends on who you ask. I mean, the Democrats would say, no, it's not. And they anticipate that this map will also be struck down. But even some of the Republicans, like, Auditor Keith Faber, broke ranks and voted against this map, saying he thinks it's worse than the ones they've had before. And it's really hard to say, to predict where the court's going to come down on this. I think the biggest question I have is what's going to happen at Tuesday's contempt hearing.
So that is still going to happen, even though they have submitted a third map for their consideration.
As far as I know, it seems to be still a go. And perhaps because regardless of submitting the map, they still violated the court order by submitting it late.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. Gene Krebs, first to the argument that the toss-up districts, the ones with a relatively close theoretical margin of victory, they labeled as Democratic districts, but the Republican districts are solidly Republican. Is that just a token effort, or is that the way the state is built right now?
I think this goes to the confusion that we're all seeing on this topic. And I think that's because nobody, when they were drafting the amendment language, had forgotten about Maslow's hierarchy of need. And they did not do any sort of a ranking as to what are the most important aspects of any map to look at, and then rank it on down. For a while there, I've been wondering if the Supreme Court would appoint a special counsel. I'm beginning to think that what they're going to about have to do is appoint an arbitrator who's going to be able to come in and effectively, I'm a strict constructionist, but they're going to have to do some case law. Because the Constitution is just way too vague on which ones do you make the most important. And the last time I was on your show, I said Section 19 of the maps that the Republicans submitted, I don't think it's going to pass muster. Well, I've looked at some Democrat maps, and I think they're also guilty of violating Section 19. The question is, for the Supremes, how important is certain aspects of this? Which ones should they wait? Which ones shouldn't they? And I think that's what they're going to have to get down to.
Section 19, is that the compactness section of the map?
Yes, it has to do with not cutting up counties, communities, things of that nature. That's partly what Auditor Keith Faber was protesting to. And I think Keith has been talking to the same people I've been talking to out here in rural Ohio, who are going, why can't you Republicans just get something done? And why are you hiding? And just don't be afraid. Don't be cowardly. Face those Democrats in an open seat thing and take them on. They think, well, we got the better values. We'll win.
Derek Clay, to that point, are Democrats asking too much that they should get districts that in theory are safe? Should that be a guaranteed part of this process, or what is wrong with having toss-up districts that they have to fight to win?
Well, the Democrats should not want a unfavorable advantage, because the state of Ohio voters said that they wanted a fair process. And that's something that hasn't happened throughout this whole process. I mean, quite honestly, this whole thing is a mess, and it could have been avoided. The Republicans had ample time to do hearings around the state. They they've given maps to the other side of the aisle, 24 hours, sometimes less than that time notice for them to respond to. So all of this could have been avoided, but we're at this juncture now where the Supreme Court has asked the Redistricting Commission to come in to explain themselves. Yeah, and so this all could have been avoided.
And to that point, they've asked for the actual members to be there. So that means the governor, secretary of state, auditor, speaker of the House, Senate president, all have to be there. Their lawyers can speak for them, I guess, but they've got to sit in front of the judges and explain why they missed the deadline. Do you think that caused a change of heart on the part of the commission leaders, basically Senate President Matt Huffman, to say, let's try again and see if we can come up with a map the third time?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like being called down to the principal's office. And I don't think they wanted to go empty-handed. Say if they go in contrite, it's crazy that this is even something that's about to come out of my mouth, but contempt of court can include being jailed. And while I think that's highly unlikely, they can also be fined. 4 of them, I believe, are attorneys. They could be censured for defying a court order. I think going in with a map in hand and being contrite about the issue is probably putting their best foot forward.
Gene Krebs, do you see one branch of government holding another branch of government in contempt? Or in this case, 2 branches, with legislative and executive.
Yes, I do. And here's the reason why. Previous guests on your show have been very adamant that this is a political process up until a point, and then it becomes a process of the law. And so it's hit that point, and the law needs to speak. The other thing, when people are looking at how Maureen O'Connor is going to approach this, I've known her for, I don't know, maybe a quarter century now. The way to always define Maureen O'Connor is she's a former Summit County prosecutor. And they see things in a very Manichaean heresy, the forces of light and the forces of darkness. She knows she's on the forces of light. And for even some Republican associated groups to threaten her with impeachment is just going to tick her off, and she's just going to put a stake in the ground.
Derek Clay, the congressional map is still out there. March 4th, we'll get to it in a moment. That's a deadline for candidates to file. Will we see that map in the next week, do you think?
I think that the Redistricting Commission is going to make every attempt to put a map out there, but nothing surprises me at this point. Everything about this process has been jaded. I mean, the voters asked for a fair process again, and we're at a point now where maps have been presented in the past that are worse than the current lines that we have right now. So yes, the commission will try to meet that deadline, but don't hold your breath on that.
All right, the fight over political cartography has candidates and potential candidates trying to figure out whether they're going to run and who their voters will be. Legislative and congressional candidates don't know their districts yet. They don't know for sure when Ohio will hold its primary. It's hard to run a race when you don't know the course or where the finish line is. Right, Gene Krebs? You've been through this in your first run for office.
Yeah, my very first primary race back in 1992 was also a year of new districts. And I originally was supposed to have a May primary. It got moved to June. Then it got moved back to May. And then it got moved back to June. And I know that a whole lot of folks out there are going, oh my God, how am I going to plan anything? You just put your nose to the grindstone and you just do it. You don't whine, you don't complain. That's not becoming for the voters to see you whine and complain. You just simply say, well, that's the districts. That's what the law says. I follow the law. I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Derek Clay, which candidate does a delay? Let's just say it's a delay and not 2 primaries. We'll get to the 2 primaries situation in a moment. But which candidates are helped by a delay, which are hurt? Does it merely matter? Is what Gene says, just put your nose down and do the work.
Absolutely. I think candidates on both sides of the aisle actually benefit in some way because especially if you're running against an incumbent, then you have more time to actually talk to voters. So in that regard, it's a win. The loser here is the public, because the bottom line is, every time you delay this primary, or if you even have to have two primaries, the taxpayers pay for that.
Yep.
So again, this could have been all avoided if the GOP would have handled this process with a little more intensity.
Yeah, estimates are that two primaries could cost the state at least $15 million. That's based on elections from a few years ago. Anna Staver, to that point, Secretary of State Frank LaRose this week said, look, we just can't have the May 3rd primary as it's planned right now, with both legislative and executive offices on the ballot. You're going to have two, or you're going to have to delay it. What are the chances of having two, do you think, right now?
I think that's hard for the reason you just listed, is that it's going to cost more money, and that doesn't look good. I think the biggest question out there now is when we're going to move it and how far back. We have another election set for August. So arguably the cheapest move might be to push to August, but that is 3 more months of campaigning and fundraising, and that could become problematic for candidates.
Derek Clay, there has to be Democrats out there waiting for that congressional map to come out and be approved, because there likely will be more available Democratic districts based on how the Supreme Court has ruled. Well, right now there are 3 safe districts for Democrats. Chances are you're going to have at least 6 to meet the constitutional threshold. My guess is there are a lot of candidates just sort of wait in a waiting game to see, will they run?
Absolutely. This is a big waiting game. And folks that are thinking about running for Congress, in some of these opportunity districts are definitely keeping their eye out for when these maps are going to become final.
Gene Krebs, is that, I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but is that part of the mixture here, that the longer this takes, the disadvantage it gives to challengers in the primary, both whether they be Republican challengers to incumbent Republicans or getting, really solid Democrats, their campaigns up and running?
I think that what it would do is, I'll just, for any, for Democrat primaries, it will be problematic, because if they're looking to challenge the incumbent Republican, then they've got to keep their both campaigns functioning, got to keep paying staff, got to keep doing that. So that'll increase their costs over time. At the same time, it is on the Republican primary side, it's giving the challengers to Mike DeWine more time to get organized and get going and everything. And on what is supposed to be a primary for the U.S. Senate, there's 5 candidates, I think, right now, and most of us of the older set think that whoever wins will win with 21%. So it's not going to be helpful on the Republican U.S. Senate primary.
And Staver, more time on the U.S. Senate Republican primaries, more time for these candidates to try to win the affection of Donald Trump. We're still waiting for his endorsement. There's no indication he's even close to giving it, if he's even going to give it in this race. Anything new on that this week?
No, not his endorsement is still the gold standard for a lot of Republican primaries, and we haven't heard anything yet. The only thing we heard this week was in the governor's race, Jim Renacci sent out a mailer saying that he was endorsed by Trump, which was true in 2018. And so he got a little bit of flack for using an old endorsement on a new flyer.
Did he have some fine print at least, or whatever?
Not to my knowledge. And it was like one of those quirky things that happens in campaigns. I think he would love to have the former president's endorsement, and I'm pretty sure most of the Republicans in the Senate primary feel the same way.
Yes, endorsed by the president, a long time ago, but endorsed nonetheless. Not the whole truth, but some of the truth. Let's get to our next topic. Around Central Ohio, the masks are coming off. Bexley this week ended its COVID mask mandate. Columbus City Council considered it, but decided to hold off for a little while longer. The latest CDC transmission map shows Franklin County has improved to orange. That means substantial spread, which is better than a high rate of spread. Those are the red counties. Columbus City officials say we have to get down to yellow. That is a moderate rate of spread to ditch the mask rules. And another sign of hope, highways and office parking lots are getting crowded. Employees are heading back to the office, and not everybody's happy about it. We'll get to that in a moment. But Derek Clay, first to the whole mask thing. The CDC now apparently is going to base its recommendations on hospitalizations, not cases. We're seeing the end of the mask mandate, at least for now, it seems, across the country.
Yeah, well, as of early as yesterday, Ohio saw a 90% drop in cases since its peak in January. So, as the caseload goes down, then some of these municipalities and counties are looking at whether they should keep those mask mandates in place. I know that, City of Columbus, I know that the mayor wants Andrew Ginther wants to make sure that we look at these cases for a few more weeks to see if the City of Columbus will lift their mandate. But you just never know with these variants. At first it was Delta, and then we went to Omicron. And so, once we start to think that things are going down, there's another variant out there. So I think that officials are just being a little cautious at this point.
And then we learned there's a variant of the variant, which if we didn't have enough to worry about, we'll have to watch that, the COVID variant of the COVID Omicron variant. We'll keep an eye on that. Gene Krebs in Western Ohio, mask mandates not really an issue. Mask wearing, probably not a huge issue out there. Do you ever see a point where folks in rural Ohio will go back to wearing masks if things do get bad? Again,
for the zombie apocalypse, but nothing short of that.
Yeah.
And really, that's it. I mean, they do not feel like they need to wear a mask. This COVID had about a 2% mortality rate, though there's some indication looking at the excess death numbers, it may actually be several times that number. And that if you read the book Pale Rider on the Spanish flu, history seldom repeats, but it does often rhyme. And they had the anti-mask league. And right now what we're seeing with the late winter spike of Omicron and the spikes of the Spanish flu, history really does rhyme. It's all much the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, you talked about how your primary kept getting moved all those years ago, and we're back in the same spot all these years later. Moving to the work from home situation, Anna Staver, when you go back to the office, we're going to be very disappointed because we're not going to have that great artwork behind you for this show. But what is the feeling, do you think, right now among rank and file office workers to going back to the office? Are they ready to go back, or some still want to stay home permanently?
I think a lot of folks are looking at a hybrid model. I know that's what we're doing. I'm kind of doing a 3-2. So like Monday, Fridays at home, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays downtown with the legislature. And, a lot of my neighbors that I talk to are doing that as well. And they appreciate that flexibility. It's nice to be able to pick my daughter up from the school bus when she gets home and have a little more flexibility in my schedule and, do a load of laundry in between waiting for people to call me back. And I think, what the pandemic has shown is that we can work well from our homes, and having that mixture and that flexibility seems to be really valuable right now.
Derek Clay, it looks like you're in the office. How is your company handling this? And do you think that eventually memories will fade and, workers won't have as much pull as they have now as the economy maybe takes a bit of a downturn, that people will be back in the office more than they are now, no matter what?
To Anna's point, COVID has definitely taught us that we can work from anywhere. And with the right tools, you can do it very well. Our office situation here is most of the professionals that work in our office are actually in the office daily, but we do have some flexibility with the hybrid model as well. So of course, if anybody is feeling sick or anything like that, they of course can take their laptop home and work from home. But I do think that the downtown business community is going to have to figure out a way to get some of the folks back into the offices on a normal basis, because businesses are quite honestly suffering because there's not a lot of traffic downtown.
Yeah, it does go into a public policy debate, Gene Krebs. I mean, we're trying to get all these mixed use developments, office, retail, and residential, and we're trying to figure out how many highways we need to widen to get people to and from work every day. If 20% of the workforce stays home every day, we have to rethink that, right?
Yeah, my first think tank was with economic development, urban redevelopment, environment preservation. So the issue of zoning is one I'm very familiar with. The impediment to this is that for a lot of these corporations, they may have 9 buildings on their campus and they only need one of them. But they can't convert those other buildings over to apartments or condos because of zoning. It's zoned commercial, and they've reached out to their local community, say, "Hey, you guys have any flexibility of us converting these over to condos?" And they go, "No, that's an industrial park. That's a research park. We don't want condos in there." And so now they're trying to go, well, we need to justify our expenses for this for our shareholders. Yeah, this is going to be a very disruptive and very tough situation for many folks.
Yeah, imagine what those mill workers from 100 years ago think when they go by those fancy lofts in the old factories in the urban areas, what they think of the way they used to sweat and toil every day. Our last topic, 3 years after the story came to light and Mount Carmel fired him, former anesthesiologist William Husel faced a jury this week. His murder trial began in Franklin County Court. For the jury, it comes down to a simple question. Do they think William Husel injected critically ill patients to ease their suffering or to speed their deaths? Prosecutors say Husel gave 14 patients he's charged with murdering doses of opioid painkillers that far exceed what is normally prescribed. His defense is he had to give high doses of painkillers because some of the patients had built up a very high tolerance to the drugs. Gene Krebs, in a murder with a gun, it's pretty simple. Was it in self-defense or did you intentionally kill the person? There's no doubt what happened. With medicine and dosing, this is really difficult.
Yes, and so here's an astounding statement. Prior to the mid-1990s, there was no legislation, there was no law in Ohio dealing with what is called palliative care, is what we're talking about here. And I have to give full credit to then Representative E.J. Thomas, who now runs the Central Ohio Habitat for Humanity, saw the need for this, passed legislation for it, and then in 2019, they did an update to his work. And so when this Husel case happened, I was stunned. I'm going, this has been old, long-term settled law. It's been updated. How could there have been this amount of question where things like this could have alleged to have happened? And I'm just baffled. I've been following the case a little bit out of some mild professional interest, and I still can't figure out how this whole thing happened like this.
And David, this is part of the problem with opioids, that there are so many folks who have been taking these opioids for the past 10 years or so for treatment of illnesses, or perhaps they became addicted to it, that it takes more and more opioids to kill the pain, to stop the suffering, and that's perhaps one thing that you just can't legislate.
Yeah, one of the interesting arguments about one of the patients in the case was that he had been in surgery not too long before and been given many more times the dosage of fentanyl as the doctor injected him. And it's sort of that question. I actually think that there was, I believe, 11 claims that were dismissed because they didn't think that it was going to reach a threshold. So I think he was originally charged in the murder of 25 patients, and now we're down to 14 cases, because they were arguing that though it was a large dose, perhaps it was not a fatal dose, or the prosecutor didn't think they could make those cases.
Yeah. Derek Clay, is there any way to put a marker saying, okay, if you gave more than this amount, this is intentional, it could be called euthanasia or a mercy killing and thus murder, and less than this amount, it's for pain and suffering? Is there any way to legislate this? Should we legislate it?
Well, I know that the Ohio State Medical Board is they're looking at this case very closely, because there may be some legislation that comes out in response to this case, because the prosecution is going to have to prove, that he intentionally did this. And there, they have a number of cases and evidence right now that he did. But it's beyond a reasonable doubt that they have to convince the jury that this happens.
Yeah.
So you could very well see some legislation around how you give out medicine.
Yeah, that and hospitals changing policies, trying to keep up with the science. Let's get to our final off-the-record parting shots. And Gene Krebs, you go first.
So about 2 weeks ago, the universe in the anti-corruption efforts in Ohio changed. I won't go into reasons why. But because of that, I think you can now begin to expect the Department of Justice to start taking a close look at some of the actors in the utility industry and the Kasich administration as to what happened when the Ohio Consumers Council budget was cut in half, and they attempted, in effect, to destroy the agency. I think you're going to see that come back now.
Interesting. Derek Clay.
It's embarrassing that we don't have legislative districts yet in the state. And, also the fact that the redistricting commission has to go before the Ohio Supreme Court. I think that there's some lessons that can be learned from the state of Iowa that has a much simpler process where politics are largely left out of it.
All right. Anna Staver, you're up.
The Columbus Monthly this week published sort of the definitive article on the Schottenstein family. I think it's well worth a read if you're interested in politics in Ohio. They are one of the wealthiest families in the country, and it details all their sort of inner fighting, securities frauds, allegations, like the who's who of this very large and very powerful local family.
All right. My off-the-record comment. About 10 years ago, a delegation of journalists from Ukraine visited us here in the Columbus on the Record set. They were committed journalists, wanted to tell the stories of their people. We just hope they are all safe this week. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online. Each episode is available on demand at our website, wosu.org/COTR. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.